Depending on others delays your growth in ways most people don't even realize. In the beginning, it feels harmless. You think you are just taking support, waiting for guidance, or hoping someone will give you a chance. But slowly, without noticing, that dependence starts shaping your mindset. You stop taking initiative. You stop trusting your own judgment. You begin to believe that your progress is controlled by someone else's decisions, moods, or availability. And the moment your growth depends on something outside you, it is no longer in your control. Think about how growth actually happens. Growth requires struggle. Growth requires making mistakes, learning from them, and standing back up again. But when you depend on others, you unconsciously avoid that struggle. You wait for someone to fix the problem for you. You wait for approval before you act. You wait for encouragement before you try. In that waiting, time passes, opportunities disappear, and potential quietly fades. Growth does not announce when it is leaving, it simply moves on. Depending on others also weakens your sense of responsibility. When something goes wrong, it becomes easy to say, they didn't support me, or if only someone had helped me. This may sound logical, but it slowly trains your mind to give away power. Responsibility is heavy, but it is also empowering. The moment you say, this is my life, and I am responsible for it, you feel fear, yes, but you also feel strength. Dependence takes that strength away by giving you an excuse to stay the same. Another hidden danger of depending on others is emotional instability. When your happiness, confidence, or motivation depends on someone else, your emotions are never stable. If they praise you, you feel high. If they criticize you, you feel crushed. If they stay, you feel safe. If they leave, you feel lost. Growth requires emotional balance, and emotional balance comes from inner security, not external validation. A person who depends too much on others is constantly reacting instead of consciously responding. Depending on others also limits your decision-making ability. You start doubting yourself. Even for small decisions, you ask, what do you think? Or, what should I do? Over time, your inner voice becomes quieter. You stop listening to your intuition. You forget that you are capable of thinking, deciding, and acting on your own. Growth demands clarity, and clarity comes when you trust yourself enough to take responsibility for your choices, even when they are wrong. Life is unpredictable. People change. Situations change. Circumstances change. When your growth is tied to people or situations, it becomes fragile. If they leave, your growth stops. If circumstances change, your plans collapse. But when you depend on yourself, your skills, your discipline, your mindset, your growth becomes stable. You may slow down, but you never stop. You may struggle, but you never feel powerless. There is also a spiritual and mental cost to dependence. It creates fear, the fear of losing people, the fear of being alone, the fear of failing without support. This fear makes you compromise. You compromise your values, your dreams, and sometimes even your self-respect just to keep people around. Growth cannot happen where fear controls your choices. Growth needs courage, and courage grows only when you learn to stand alone. Depending on others delays growth because it postpones self-discovery. When you are always leaning on someone, you never discover how strong you actually are. You never find out how creative you can be under pressure, how resilient you are in failure, or how calm you can remain in chaos. Strength is not revealed in comfort, it is revealed in challenge. And dependence removes challenge from your life. This does not mean you should reject help or isolate yourself. Support is healthy, dependence is not. Support empowers you, while dependence weakens you. Support helps you move forward, while dependence makes you wait. The difference is subtle but powerful. A growing person says, I will try, and if I need guidance, I will seek it. A dependent person says, I cannot move until someone helps me. When you stop depending on others, something beautiful happens. You become proactive instead of reactive. You stop complaining and start creating. You stop waiting and start working. You stop asking for permission and start taking responsibility. Growth accelerates because every success and every failure becomes your teacher, not your excuse. Ultimately, growth is personal. No one can grow on your behalf. No one can struggle for you, learn for you, or transform for you. Others may walk beside you, but you must walk the path yourself. The sooner you understand this, the sooner your life begins to change. Because the moment you stop depending on others, you stop delaying your growth, and you finally start becoming who you were meant to be. No one is coming to rescue you, and this is one of the hardest truths to accept in life. From a very young age, many of us grow up with the idea that someone will step in when things go wrong. As children, parents protect us. As students, teachers guide us. As we grow older, we expect friends, partners, bosses, or society to support us when we struggle. This belief is comforting, but it quietly weakens us. Because when you believe rescue is coming, you delay action. You wait instead of moving. You hope instead of preparing. Life does not work on hope alone. Life rewards responsibility. And the sooner you realize that no external savior is arriving, the sooner you begin to save yourself. This realization may feel scary at first, but it is also deeply liberating. It means your life is not at the mercy of someone else's availability, kindness, or understanding. It means your progress depends on your own decisions, your own effort, and your own discipline. Waiting for rescue creates a passive mindset. You start believing that circumstances are the problem, not your response to them. You tell yourself that if only someone had supported you, guided you, or believed in you, things would be different. This way of thinking shifts focus away from what you can control. And growth can only happen in the space of control. The moment you stop waiting for rescue, you begin to look inward. You ask better questions. What can I do right now? What skills do I need? What habits must I change? These questions create movement, and movement creates change. Another painful truth is that even people who care about you have their own struggles. They have their own fears, responsibilities, and limitations. Expecting them to rescue you is unfair to them and damaging to you. Sometimes they won't show up, not because they don't care, but because they can't. When your stability depends on their presence, their absence feels like betrayal. But when you accept that no one is coming to rescue you, you stop feeling betrayed by life. You start understanding it. This realization also builds emotional strength. When you believe someone will rescue you, failure feels unbearable. But when you know you are responsible for yourself, failure becomes feedback. You stop seeing difficult moments as disasters and start seeing them as lessons. You stop asking, Why is this happening to me? And start asking, what is this teaching me? This shift is powerful. It transforms pain into purpose and struggle into strength. No one coming to rescue you also means no one will live your dreams for you. Your dreams are personal. Your goals are personal. Others may support, encourage, or advise you, but they will not wake up every day with your hunger, your vision, or your urgency. If you don't chase your dreams, they will remain wishes. And wishes without action slowly turn into regrets. Accepting that rescue is not coming pushes you to act before it's too late. There is also a deep confidence that comes from self-rescue. When you pull yourself out of a difficult situation, even slowly, you start trusting yourself. You realize that you are stronger than you thought. That confidence cannot be given by anyone else. It must be earned through experience. Each time you face a problem, without waiting for rescue, you build inner resilience. And resilience is one of the most valuable qualities a person can have. This truth also frees you from blame. When things go wrong, it's easy to blame people, systems, or circumstances. Blame provides temporary relief, but it steals long-term growth. When you accept that no one is coming to rescue you, blame loses its power. You stop wasting energy on anger and start investing it in solutions. You understand that life is not always fair, but it is always responsive to effort. Understanding that no one is coming to rescue you does not mean life will be lonely. It means life will be honest. You can still accept help. You can still learn from others. But you no longer depend on them for your survival or self-worth. You walk with people, not behind them. You stand beside them, not beneath them. In the end, this truth is not cruel, it is empowering. It reminds you that you are capable, responsible, and strong enough to face life. When you stop waiting for rescue, you stop being a victim of circumstances. You become the architect of your own life. And that is where real freedom begins. Self-reliance builds confidence in a way nothing else ever can. Confidence that comes from words, praise, or motivation is temporary, but confidence that comes from relying on yourself is deep, quiet, and unshakable. When you learn to depend on your own effort, your own thinking, and your own discipline, something inside you changes. You stop looking outside for reassurance and start trusting what is within. That trust becomes the foundation of real confidence. In the beginning, self-reliance feels uncomfortable. When you stop leaning on others, you feel exposed. There is no one to blame, no one to hide behind, no one to give you instant comfort. But this discomfort is not weakness, it is the birthplace of strength. Each time you face a challenge on your own, even if you struggle, you send a message to your mind, I can handle this. That message, repeated over time, slowly turns into belief. And belief is the core of confidence. When you rely on others too much, your confidence becomes fragile. It rises when you receive approval and collapses when you face criticism. You start measuring your worth through reactions, opinions, and validation. This makes you emotionally dependent and mentally unstable. Self-reliance breaks this cycle. When you know you can stand on your own, opinions lose their power over you. You listen to advice, but you are not controlled by it. You accept feedback, but it does not define you. Your confidence comes from knowing who you are and what you can do, not from what others think. Self-reliance also teaches you problem solving. Every time you face a problem and choose to deal with it yourself, you sharpen your mind, you learn how to analyze situations, make decisions, and take responsibility for outcomes. Even when you fail, you gain experience. And experience is one of the strongest builders of confidence. A person who has faced problems and survived them trusts themselves more than someone who has always been protected from difficulty. There is also a deep emotional confidence that comes with self-reliance. You stop fearing loneliness because you know you can manage your own emotions. You stop fearing change because you trust your ability to adapt. You stop fearing failure because you know you can recover. This does not make life easy, but it makes you steady. And steadiness is far more powerful than temporary excitement or motivation. Self-reliance builds confidence because it aligns your actions with your values. When you depend on others, you often compromise your time, your priorities, even your principles, just to maintain support or approval. Over time, this creates inner conflict. You may look confident on the outside, but inside you feel weak. When you rely on yourself, you act with integrity. You make choices that reflect who you truly are. This inner alignment creates self-respect. And self-respect is the strongest form of confidence. Another powerful effect of self-reliance is that it removes fear of judgment. When you know you are capable of handling your life, judgment loses its grip. People may criticize you, doubt you, or misunderstand you, but it no longer shakes you. You don't need everyone to agree with you. You don't need constant reassurance. You move forward with quiet certainty. That kind of confidence does not shout, it speaks through actions. Self-reliance also teaches patience. You learn that growth takes time and that results come from consistent effort, not instant support. This patience strengthens confidence because you stop rushing or comparing yourself to others. You trust your process, you trust your pace. And when you trust your journey, you stop feeling insecure about someone else's success. Over time, self-reliance transforms the way you see yourself. You no longer see yourself as someone who needs to be saved, guided, or pushed. You see yourself as someone who can learn, adapt, and grow. This shift in identity is powerful. Confidence is not about being perfect. It is about believing in your ability to improve. Self-reliance reinforces this belief every single day. This does not mean you reject help or wisdom from others. True self-reliance is not arrogance. It is humility combined with strength. You ask for guidance when needed, but you do not surrender responsibility. You appreciate support, but you do not depend on it for your sense of worth. You stand firmly on your own feet while remaining open to learning. In the end, self-reliance builds confidence because it gives you something no one else can give you: trust in yourself. When you trust yourself, fear becomes manageable, challenges become opportunities, and life becomes less intimidating. You stop doubting your ability to handle what comes next. And that quiet, steady belief in yourself becomes the confidence that carries you through every stage of life. Expectations create disappointment, not because people are bad, but because expectations are often unrealistic and unspoken. Most of the time, we expect others to think the way we think, care the way we care, and act the way we would act in the same situation. When they don't, we feel hurt, ignored, or betrayed. But the real source of that pain is not their behavior, It is our assumption that they owed us something. This silent contract we create in our minds becomes the reason for so much emotional suffering. Expectations give other people control over your emotions. When you expect someone to support you, understand you, or stand by you in a certain way, you hand them power over how you feel. If they meet your expectations, you feel happy. If they don't, you feel disappointed. This emotional dependence is exhausting. Your mood keeps rising and falling based on someone else's actions. Inner peace cannot exist in this state because peace requires emotional independence. One of the biggest problems with expectations is that they are rarely communicated clearly. We expect people to just know what we need. We expect them to read our minds, sense our struggles, and respond perfectly. But people are not mind readers. They see life through their own experiences, pressures, and limitations. When they fail to meet expectations they never knew existed, we label them as careless or selfish. This creates distance in relationships and unnecessary bitterness in the heart. Expectations also blind us to reality. Instead of seeing people as they are, we see them as we want them to be. We ignore their limitations and focus on our hopes. When reality finally shows itself, the disappointment feels sharp and personal. But reality was always there. We just chose not to see it. Growth requires acceptance of reality, not attachment to imagined outcomes. Another hidden danger of expectations is resentment. When expectations are repeatedly unmet, disappointment turns into anger. Anger slowly becomes resentment. Resentment poisons relationships and drains emotional energy. You may continue interacting with the person, but inside you carry bitterness. This emotional weight affects your mental health, focus, and peace. All of this begins with expectations that were never guaranteed. Expectations also slow personal growth. When you expect others to support you, motivate you, or validate you, you delay your own responsibility. You wait for encouragement instead of developing discipline. You wait for appreciation instead of finding purpose. You wait for understanding instead of strengthening resilience. Growth happens when you take responsibility for your emotions and actions, not when you outsource them to others. Many people confuse expectations with love and care. They believe that if someone truly cares, they should meet their expectations. But true care does not always look the way we imagine. Sometimes people care silently. Sometimes they care imperfectly. Sometimes they care but are overwhelmed by their own struggles. When expectations are high, even genuine care feels insufficient. This leads to misunderstanding and emotional distance. Letting go of expectations does not mean becoming cold or detached. It means becoming emotionally intelligent. It means understanding that people will act according to their capacity, not according to your needs. When you accept this, disappointment loses its power. You stop taking things personally. You stop feeling constantly let down. Instead, you observe, understand, and adapt. When expectations are replaced with acceptance, relationships become lighter. You appreciate what people give instead of focusing on what they don't. Gratitude replaces resentment. Understanding replaces anger. You learn to enjoy people for who they are, not punish them for who they are not. This shift brings emotional freedom. Expectations also affect self-respect. When you expect too much from others and they fail you, you may start questioning your worth. You ask yourself why you weren't important enough. But your worth was never the issue. The issue was placing your emotional security in someone else's hands. When you stop expecting, you stop seeking validation, you begin to value yourself independently of others' behavior. Life becomes more peaceful when expectations are managed. You stop living in constant anticipation of how others should behave. You focus on what you can control, your effort, your response, your mindset. This control brings calm, calm brings clarity, and clarity helps you make better decisions. In the end, expectations do not protect you, they set you up for disappointment. Freedom comes when you replace expectations with understanding and self-reliance. You still care, you still love, but you no longer allow expectations to steal your peace. When you stop expecting from others, disappointment fades, and emotional strength takes its place. Discipline is better than motivation because motivation is emotional, while discipline is intentional. Motivation comes and goes. Some days you wake up feeling inspired, energetic, and ready to conquer the world. Other days you feel tired, confused, and disconnected from your goals. If your progress depends on motivation, then your progress will always be inconsistent. Discipline, on the other hand, does not wait for feelings. It moves forward regardless of mood, energy, or circumstances. Motivation often depends on external factors. A speech, a video, a compliment, or a moment of success can make you feel motivated. But what happens when those things disappear? What happens when no one encourages you? When results are slow? When life becomes heavy? Motivation fades in silence. Discipline survives in silence. Discipline does not need applause. It does not need excitement. It only needs commitment. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is, "I will start when I feel motivated." This sentence delays dreams more than failure ever does. Waiting to feel motivated is like waiting for perfect weather to start a journey. Perfect conditions rarely exist. Discipline understands this truth. Discipline says, "I will start now, even if I don't feel ready." And that decision changes everything. Discipline builds structure in life. It creates routines that guide you even when your mind feels weak. When you are disciplined, you don't waste energy deciding whether to act, you simply act. This saves mental strength and reduces self-doubt. Over time, small disciplined actions compound into massive results. Motivation may help you start, but discipline is what helps you continue. Motivation is driven by desire, but discipline is driven by identity. When you are disciplined, you don't say, "I will work when I feel like it." You say, "This is who I am, and this is what I do." This shift is powerful. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop making excuses. You align your actions with your values, not your emotions. Another weakness of motivation is that it makes you dependent on intensity. You feel like you must always be excited to perform well, but real growth is often boring. Repetition is boring. Consistency is boring. Showing up every day without dramatic results is boring. Motivation struggles in boredom. Discipline thrives in it. Discipline understands that greatness is built in ordinary moments, repeated consistently. Discipline also builds self-respect. Every time you keep a promise to yourself, you strengthen trust in yourself. Every time you act despite resistance, you prove to yourself that you are reliable. This creates inner confidence. Motivation may make you feel good temporarily, but discipline makes you respect yourself permanently. Life is unpredictable. There will be days of stress, loss, and exhaustion. On such days, motivation will be absent. If discipline is not present, everything stops. Discipline prepares you for these days. It creates habits so strong that even on your worst days, you still move forward, even if slowly. And slow progress is infinitely better than no progress. Discipline also protects you from emotional extremes. Motivation can make you overconfident one day and deeply disappointed the next. Discipline keeps you balanced. You don't get too high with success, and you don't get too low with failure. You focus on effort, not outcome. This stability is essential for long-term growth. People often misunderstand discipline as punishment or restriction. In reality, discipline is freedom. It frees you from procrastination. It frees you from regret. It frees you from the chaos of inconsistency. When you are disciplined, you are not controlled by distractions or impulses. You control your direction. Discipline teaches patience. It reminds you that meaningful results take time. Motivation wants quick rewards. Discipline is willing to wait. It understands that planting seeds comes before harvesting. This patience prevents burnout and frustration. You learn to trust the process instead of constantly chasing excitement. Over time, discipline creates motivation, not the other way around. When you see progress, however small, you begin to feel motivated naturally. Action creates motivation. Waiting for motivation rarely creates action. This is a truth many people learn too late. Discipline does not mean being harsh with yourself. It means being honest with yourself. It means choosing what you want most over what you want now. It means doing the necessary work even when no one is watching. This quiet effort shapes character and destiny. In the end, motivation may open the door, but discipline is what walks you through it every single day. Motivation is a spark. Discipline is the fire that keeps burning. If you truly want to change your life, stop waiting to feel motivated. Build discipline. Because discipline stays when motivation leaves, and success belongs to those who stay.